For December 1st, 2021. Anybody who would like to participate remotely, the information to do so is on the website for the town of Harwich. The access codes and the URLs to log in. If you want to dial in, I'll just give you the information. It's 1-872-240-3212 is the phone number, and the access code 336-569-333. And these meetings continue to be hybrid, where we can participate both in person and remotely as people see appropriate. So with that being said, can we have a motion to call the meeting to order? We do not need that.
Only for executive sessions.
Oh, okay, thank you. That's right. Last meeting was executive session for that. So the first item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability for 17 Woodbine Road, map 12, parcel X1-29, for proposed screen porch addition. Good evening.
Good evening, Dan Croto from Moran Engineering. I'm here for the owners of 17 Woodbine. Michael O'Hearn. There's currently a deck, and he wants to turn it into a enclosed screen porch. The whole property, the whole neighborhood is in the floodplain. So I submitted an RDA, request to determine if it was going to impact the floodplain at all. I don't think I submitted the actual building plans, but I have them available if anybody wanted to look at the screen porch. I also don't think I submitted the existing conditions plot plan, but if you look at the proposed screen porch, the dashed line under it is the existing deck. It's almost identical location. The new screen porch is still going to have a deck for a bottom, but it's obviously it will have sidewalls with screens and a roof. So under building coverage, it's in a 30% max, and with this new addition, it'll be about 19%, so it's well under that, and then none of the other zoning setbacks change. And that's about it. It'll have a open tube and post foundation, same as the deck, and should be minimal impact to the floodplain. So with that, I'll ask for questions.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks very much.
Yep.
Amy, any questions, comments?
It's fairly straightforward. The project is outside of any buffer zone to an actual wetland. This is purely within flood zone, and where the house is kind of at the edge of really flood zone. It's right at the floodplain is elevation 11. Top of foundation here is of the existing house is 10.2, with first floor of 11.1. So what they want to do is replace the existing deck, almost like Dan said, in the exact same footprint with a screen porch. It would still have a sonotube open foundation. Standards really for land subject to coastal storm flowage with the state haven't been fully adopted yet. We just want to make sure that in the event of a coastal flood, that what they're proposing to do is not having any greater adverse reaction to abutting properties should we get a flood. And this one I do not feel will, because it's still going to be open at the bottom. One thing just bearing to mention, we haven't had a building permit for it yet, but since we're in a public meeting and I'm just going to mention it, just make sure, make sure your owners are aware that if the work, either just this part of the work, or if there's more work on the house to be done, if it exceeds the 50% rule, the whole property, the house would have to come up to FEMA flood compliance. It did look like they, just looking around, the house had a basement and things like that. So, and the house itself, the value of the structure isn't that high, so just something that we'll be looking at as the building permit comes in anyways. Nothing necessarily for this commission, but
Right, I think this
Oh.
is solely this addition, but, I mean, the screen porch addition,
yeah,
but it certainly is the only plan at this point. But whether that goes in with another remodel permit, then certainly they wouldn't want to trigger the greater than
Yeah.
50% value.
just something we're gonna keep an eye on, that's all. And we see it first in conservation anyway, so we'll take a quick peek at that.
Right.
No, as far as conservation's concerned, I recommend approval with a -2 determination and with the conditions that the roof runoff go into gutters, downspouts, and dry wells, or a native stone trench around the drip line, because you are pretty close to groundwater in some areas there, and no chemicals or fertilizers used on the lot. With that, I would recommend the approval.
Thank you very much. Mark, do you have any comments?
None.
John?
No comments.
Dan? Brad?
None for me.
I'll, just in the interest of making it not completely as consensual for you, you have a 17 square foot of the parking area is being removed. Is that an offset or mitigation or anything? What's the reason for that?
The reason for that was to make the site coverage unchanged. With a situation like this, where you're taking a deck and changing it to a screen porch, and it's closer than 20 feet to the lot line, it's the building commissioner's call whether this meets zoning or would need to go to the Board of Appeals for a special permit. So I was making it so that none of the zoning requirements changed, except for the building coverage, which was well under.
Okay,
So
so
I think-
it's nothing to do with our application here then, Dan?
Nope, nothing to do with that.
Okay, good. I have no other questions for you then. So can we maybe have a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to approve the RDA for 17 Woodbine Road with a -2 determination and including the conditions that Amy had indicated.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Great, thank you.
Passes 7-1, 7-0. Next on the agenda, notice intent for 48 North Road, a proposed bulkhead and fiber rolls, map 11, parcel A1.
They would like a continuation to December 15th in order to address Greg Berman, the coastal processing specialist, comments, as well as the comments I've relayed.
Okay. That's December 15th then?
December 15th, next meeting, yep.
Okay. Can we have a motion on that, please?
I'll move to continue hearing on 48 North Road to December 15th.
Second.
Second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, notice of intent for 10 Captain Scott Road, map 103, parcel W1-19, for a proposed seasonal dock. Do we have a proponent here tonight for that?
They're coming.
Okay. Good evening.
Come up if you want, Michelle, you're welcome to come up, if you'd like to. Okay. So a few of us here tonight, so.
This is empty space. So, good evening. For the record, my name is John O'Reilly. The owner and applicant is sitting in the back row, Michelle McCon, and should be happy to answer any questions that I cannot. So we're here tonight to seek approval for a seasonal dock installation. They own property, of course, that fronts on Long Pond Road, Long Pond. We're seeking to install a seasonal dock into the waters of Long Pond. We have met with the waterways folks and the natural resource director, And they have reviewed the dock, they've reviewed the location and length, and have approved the dock with asking for one modification, and that is to move the dock approximately 5 feet to make it 50 feet from the property line. And I didn't want to make that change until we had an opportunity to meet with you folks. And I didn't hold, I thought the setback was 25 feet. We were holding 45 feet to the property line at the shoreline, so they asked for it to conform to the regulations. And then looking at your E-code online, I realized that docks need to be 50 feet away from property lines, so we will certainly make that change. But the dock is fully seasonal. It extends about 70, just shy of 72 feet out into the waters of Long Pond. We have the typical terminus of the dock with a less than 100 square feet landing. And then also associated with the dock is a boat lift, which will go on the west side of the dock. The location of the dock was identified by the owner and the applicant. They would like to try to keep the beach area as open. If you've been down there, you can see that there's an area for a little bit of volleyball and a lot of activity and the necessary space. So they would like to keep the boating and the dock out of that area. So we wanted to give the abutting setback proper distance, so that's where we came up with the 45 feet location. We are showing an area for seasonal storage at the base of a slope on the backside of the beach that's generally grass. I'm sure that will be, get some comments from the commission on that, but that's where we'd like to do it, like to have it stored. And I think I'd stop at this point. I know Amy was very kind in sending me some of her concerns, concerns of some tree trimming, and I guess that today during an on-site, the issue came up again. So we'd be happy to answer those questions. I do have some additional information that Michelle didn't have today, but I'll stop there, Chair, and answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, John. Any comments?
So what I would suggest to the commission is we kind of take this into two separate parts. We could talk about the actual proposed dock structure, and then talk about maybe some of the things that aren't quite into compliance with the commission and the state, regs and stuff like that. I think maybe we shouldn't mix the two up if we don't have to. So they did go to Waterways and got approval from them with the condition that it move a little bit to the east. We do not have a natural heritage letter yet from the Endangered Species Program, so the commission won't be closing the hearing tonight. We can't vote on until we have approval from Natural Heritage, which your representative did file with, but they tend to be a little bit more delayed. So this is a proposal for a 71-foot seasonal aluminum dock with big feet pads as anchoring mechanisms. At the end of the dock, the water end of the dock, there's proposed to be 6 feet of water, which is well above our required now 2.5 and what may be 3 feet come town meeting in the spring. I have a couple of suggestions on how I think the dock can be potentially less impactful, or potentially activity surrounding the dock can be less impactful. So I understand that you want to keep your beach area fairly open. However, it would be a concern of mine, potentially the commission's, that increased activity in the area that you're proposing your dock, where it actually, there's between the vegetation and the water line is technically what we call a bordering vegetated wetland, that the potentially over time with increased use of that area, there would be impact there. When you already have a fairly open access, my recommendation would be to move the proposed dock. I just measured it past the edge of vegetation line that you see on your plan east, John, between 30 to, and it's, if you measure it out, it'd be between 30 and 40 feet. That would put it not quite where the canoe, like perpendicular
Just
from
west
the
of the
canoe
canoe
rack.
kayak rack.
Kind of, yeah, just west of that.
I see where you're going.
So, and that is to prevent, you know, your further degradation of resource areas there while still allowing a dock structure. Another, and just, another thing we can chat about too is this dock is underneath our 80-foot maximum. It is quite a bit, there's quite a bit of water underneath the end. So it's kind of a, we have to weigh out, does the extra length mean extra protection for the bottom sediment? Is, because there's obviously not gonna be any prop dredging. Most boats on the pond here would draw probably between 2 and 3 feet of water. Or would it be something the commission would be interested in chatting with the applicant with, is shortening the dock, say another 10 to 15 feet, where you would still have 4 to 5, if not, you know, more feet of water underneath it. So plenty of depth for the boat, but just less structure in the actual wetland itself. And then I did have a conversation on the site when we did our first inspection, Melissa and I, about the storage of, that the seasonal storage of the dock sections, we've required for everybody that coming forward in the past few years, that they store it at least out of the 50, if not out of the 100, and it has to be out in a disturbed area outside the 50 or 100, such as a driveway or lawn area. Currently, that area, there's a portable boat lift, which I noted will most likely have to be moved. I think I'll stop there for now, because that's all the stuff that pertains to the dock and storage of the dock. And then, if we want after, we can go into some of the other items that I had mentioned in the letter.
Okay.
And in my summary.
All right, thank you. Comments from the commissioners? Mark?
I have nothing at this time.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I'm curious about the shape of the dock portion of this. It says here 12 by 8, and on your plan, it shows the north-south dimension of that is 8.1 feet, but that dimension bar doesn't seem to include the whole thing.
No,
So is it really 12 by 12?
yes. No, I'm sorry, it's 8 by 12. The landing is 8 by 12, how I'm reading your regulations. But I can explain it. I didn't want to cut you
Go
off, I'm
ahead.
sorry. I'm sorry, John. So what we've calculated is that the dock comes out to the end, and then, which is 4 feet wide, then you have an 8-foot section heading to the east, and that runs back towards the shore, the 12 feet. The triangle completes the 100 square feet of what you have. I do have, there is a misleading dimension on that float, and that's my fault. But it's,
So it's 12 feet parallel to the shore and 8 feet perpendicular.
right, with 4 feet of that as part of the dock.
I see. So there's no, I mean, it kind of looks like it's designed to accommodate 2 boats, one on the end and one on the side there, and that's not the case, I take.
They have one boat,
I see.
and they plan to have one boat.
Well, aside from that, I have comments on the other part, but I guess we'll get to that later. I do agree with Amy's suggestion that we should consider, the applicant should consider shortening the pier. That's all I have, thank you. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, not quite done. I also agree with Amy's suggestion that the whole thing should be moved east.
Okay. Thank you, John. Stan?
I have nothing to add to that, to John's comments. I agree with her.
All right, Brad?
A quick point of clarification. So the bylaw changes, Amy, I think just pertain to tidal areas? Would that bylaw change cause the freshwater docks to need 3 feet?
I guess we didn't really chat about it because it really gets into, I thought it was gonna be for both
Yeah.
fresh and salt, and I think there's a benefit. We can talk about it when we talk about bylaw changes, later, but I think there's a benefit for freshwater to go to 3 feet too.
I agree, yep, and I think.
And this is way exceeding that, so.
Right, and having a standard, but I'm pretty sure what we voted on to date has been tidal.
Okay, I'll have to go back, but,
Tidal water dependent structures, but either way, it's pretty easy to support the 3 feet, I think, for both locations. It is a separate. Beyond that, the only comment I have is I support Amy's suggestion. There's no reason to relax our requirement to move off-season storage out of the 0 to 50.
Good, thank you. Jim?
Yeah, I agree pretty much with everybody in supporting Amy's recommendations, including moving the dock to the east, shortening the dock as much as possible, and keeping the seasonal storage out of the 50-foot buffer zone.
Okay, thank you. Alan? Okay. John, would you clarify for me again, back to John's question about the end of the dock? So the plan that we have here shows at the end there's a square, which is essentially 12 by 12,
Right.
which is 144 square
Right,
feet.
but your regulations allow for, at the end of the dock, an L or a T-shaped landing of less than 100 square feet. So what I've done here is I've taken the dock, extending it out to the 71 feet, and then put my landing of 100 square feet to the east of that.
Okay, see, I would have interpreted the regulations as meaning the end of the dock, the area covered by the end of the dock, that landing would be 100 square feet. Am I,
so the way it's a little confusing. So pretend that L is not on there, right?
Mhm.
And you would have a 4-foot wide thing that extends out the length. That is the pier.
right,
So that last section at the end, or 2, does not count towards
The
as
landing?
the landing. The area, the 3, what are they, 8x4s?
4 by 8?
The ones at the end are the 8x4.
Yeah, the 3 of those count towards that 100, plus the little triangle piece.
Interesting, okay. I wouldn't have come to that conclusion.
Just like, so think about it in as in a saltwater situation, where typically you have a ramp that goes down, because this floats.
Absolutely, yeah.
You consider just the float piece off of that
Right.
as the square footage.
Yeah, but in this case, I would have assumed that the dock ended at 12 feet out from the end of the
Oh.
landing. Similar to what you just said, if it was a float or a ramp going down to a float, that's the same thing we would have here. And the cutoff would be just north of that triangular piece.
I see what you're saying. I
Because
guess
we're
it's
concerned about
great.
shading, and that's the reason we have the 100 square foot requirement in place. So this is essentially allowing them to go with 144 square feet of shaded area, rather than just 100.
I don't have our regs with us. I can go grab them. But,
Well, I'm not gonna, fight tonight on the sizing. Let's take a look at the regulations again.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been through waterways. John reviewed the dock layout,
Yeah,
and it wasn't a comment by Amy, so I mean, this is how I interpreted the regulation.
yeah.
So if the commission is going to interpret it differently, then we'll have an opportunity to
Yeah.
address that.
I'll take
Okay.
a look at it too.
Fair
I agree with Amy, it's a little confusing,
Yeah,
but if you read it for what it says, what I've designed is in compliance.
based on your interpretation.
Based on, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
yes, based on my interpretation.
Not necessarily what it
And it's
says.
not the first, I mean, we've done other docks like this as well,
Yeah,
with the come out and then with the landing on the east or west.
okay, all right. Yeah, I would agree with the question about the length of the dock. Moving it over gets rid of the other concern I had about the depth from the sideline, because I didn't see markings on this plan showing what the current distance is from the sideline on that. There was a comment made about spacing, that they're proposing 3/8 inch spacing, and our current regs are 1/2 inch.
No, are they?
Your notes
They
say
were-
1/2 inch.
What did I put in my, when I wrote my
It's
1/2 inch?
Yeah,
Is ours.
it says 3/8 on the plan.
And I had said 3/4 would be more desirable from shading. This, there's no vegetation really underneath this portion of the pond.
It's
Oh,
a
it's pretty-
gravel base.
It's like gravel and sandy under there, so, I mean, I think the 1/2 inch is our standard
Yeah.
spacing between the planks, or between the slats if you're aluminum.
I can make that change. That's
Yeah.
that's
Good.
fine. Before we get into the,
Go ahead.
I didn't know if you were done or not.
No, that's, I think that's all that I had on this, John, so.
Ernie, excuse me,
yeah.
can I ask one more question?
Uh-huh.
Going back to the length and the depth at the end, is there a specific reason for that extra depth? I mean, we've been
Yep.
suggesting
Yep.
shrinking it, but we don't know what the rationale for having it.
Well, as I said, Amy had, shared her thoughts with me prior to the meeting. And I knew the depth, the length of the dock was gonna be a comment. So I was just letting you all talk, and then I was gonna answer. The issue is that it's the boat, it's the, and Gary is, I think, on the line as well, Michelle's husband. And we do not really want to shrink the length of the dock. The dock is designed according to the requirements laid out in your regulations. And the big thing is the boat lift on the west side of the dock. If we pull the structure in, the boat lift runs a risk of not working properly because of the depth. So one of the things that, that was key to us as to why we're out so far into the water. I agree, it's 6 feet, but it was the boat lift that was driving that. And as far as shifting it, I mean, we'll have to come back, after we talk to the owners, but, obviously they feel very strongly about where the dock is proposed. The one thing I will add, and should have added in my initial conversation tonight, is that, the applicants are very good friends with the folks to the west, and they've used, if you've been out there, the only way to get to one beach to the other is along this pathway of where the dock is being. And Gary, yesterday when we were talking, said that pathway is free and clear, and that's how they go back and forth. So that's why they feel comfortable in putting where it is. One of the things that I was concerned about, it would be underwater there. And they've told me that, that beach is walkable throughout the year. So that's why we placed it there. We don't see it as any additional impact putting it there versus in front of the beach. It just crowds the beach.
Okay, good, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I ask another follow-up?
Please.
So, my understanding of the reason to have a boat lift is so the boat doesn't stay in the water all the time and get fouled. Is that a correct assumption? That's why you want a boat lift?
I believe.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
They're asking you why you want the boat lift, or what the purpose of the boat lift is.
And when you speak, if you would speak at a mic, either there or next to John. Thank you.
You're welcome. So why do we want the boat lift? Is that the question?
Yeah, I was stating my assumption of why you want the boat lift, but actually, it's better for you to just tell me.
Well, what was your assumption?
To keep the boat out of the water most of the time so the bottom doesn't foul.
That's pretty much it, and also because when you pull the boat in, it just goes into the boat lift, you get off the dock, and you come in.
So that's convenience.
It's a
So,
convenience.
um,
And then it does keep the boat much cleaner.
So without the boat lift, how would you keep the bottom clean?
When we were young and healthy, we would scrub it and scrub it and scrub it. But now we're older. And we don't have that ability to scrub it and scrub it like we used to.
I see. Okay.
One other question I had, John, you said the soundings of the dock were obtained in August of 2021. My recollection was in August that water levels were down. Is that right?
Well, they're typically down in August, and August is typically the month we look at where, you know, how the fluctuation exists. But, yeah, August tends to be a lower month, yep.
Okay. So the 6.3 feet that we're talking about, the majority of the year will be higher than that.
In the springtime, yeah, June and July, you'll
Early
get
summer.
a higher depth, yes.
Yeah,
It's pretty
okay.
common knowledge.
All right. Okay, good. So where are we on this? You gonna make some changes?
I think we need to come back and, after we talk to our clients, and after I talk to Michelle and her husband, and then we'll return in
Okay.
2 weeks for the dock.
So for the next meeting?
When's your next meeting?
The 15th.
15th? Yes, 15th would be good.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
Mr. Chair, should we, the other things that I addressed in the letter that the commission's aware of and that, Michelle, we spoke about on site at first, since we have time now, would it be prudent to discuss those other items now, such as the current storage of the boat lift, things like that?
I think so, but I was thinking we would, you wanted to bifurcate the two of them. So
Oh, for discussion.
why don't we
I
have a
didn't know if we were
motion
gonna-
to?
I didn't want you to vote to continue and then we'll not be able to have that discussion, that's all. So,
Oh, okay.
whenever you
But
want.
You're amenable to having the
No,
discussion after?
I'd actually think it'd be a good idea to keep the hearing open in case, as this conversation goes, if there's mitigation that's necessary, it can be incorporated
Yeah.
in a public hearing and go from
Okay,
there.
all right. Well, with that said, then Amy, why don't you go ahead and,
So we just noticed a couple of things when Melissa and I did our initial site visit that just aren't necessarily in line with our current regulations or things that have not been permitted. That being said, where the proposed seasonal dock would be stored in the off-season, there currently is a portable boat lift, which is in the 0 to 50-foot buffer. And this is something typically the commission, in other situations on Long Pond actually, have not allowed similar activities to take place. It is in a sandy or sparsely vegetated grass area. My recommendation is just to stay consistent with it. It's a no disturb zone, and that in your conditions, you don't allow for storage of things there. I don't think Michelle or her husband did any of the things that we're gonna talk about necessarily knowingly, and I'm hoping that we can all work together to come to a good resolution that everybody can live with. So the other thing we did mention on the site was the Canoer kayak rack. Again, something, it's in a sandy area, and I'm not opposed, I like to see some kayak racks in sandy areas where there's no vegetation, because it does keep all your boats up off the ground, which is where we don't want them. But again, not something we have approved, so it's part of this application now, and my recommendation is that as you move forward, you consider that as part of this application, is to now make that either in that exact location, or we can talk about it more at length, but to officially make that structure, if you will, legal. We recently approved a kayak rack over on Seymour Pond, for similar, reasons, so. And then the topping of the trees that are kind of right in front of the house as you're looking towards the water, our regulations say no topping of trees, and those have been routinely topped over the years. That being said, I think something to talk about together is if you stop topping those trees, they've been pruned to a point, they're not gonna be viable specimens. So if you just let them grow like crazy, they're not gonna become actual viable specimens either. So something to chat about is potentially to actually flush cut them and encourage a proper tree, a leader, and proper regrowth of that. Or removal and replanting with something that it's a little bit lower, but you're not inclined to prune. Those are two potential options there. Just my thoughts, because the current practice, one, it's not we don't allow it, the topping, and if you cease doing it, the trees are not gonna become actual viable tree specimens anyway. So, either flush cut and encourage one single leader, dominant leader, and actually become a tree, or remove and replant that area, and that could be as mitigation to do some additional replanting on the toe of the slope there.
Does that comment also include the bushes that were to the west of the sandy beach, between the beach and the dock
So-
location?
I'll let them address that. I got an email, and I did, at the end of the day today, and Michelle addressed it when, before the meeting tonight. The bushes, I'm concerned about the bushes to the west of the shed there. And I think Michelle was a little surprised at our comments, so didn't, on the site about it. So they've kind of shown that there was some damage to vegetation in that area. They have photos as a result of the tornado. And I don't know if the removal of said damage may have contributed to that. That area didn't look as substantially altered as the trees topping, so. But if you want them to elaborate on that area, I'm sure they can.
Why don't you go through the rest of your comments?
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's all right.
There are a couple things that I, after we had the first initial site visit, that I had noticed that I just think we should bring up. We looked back, because it looked like the raised bed garden area, as well as the patio that you have closest to the top of the slope there, was relatively new. And I did see that those items were installed between 3 to 5 years ago. Where it says existing stone patios on the plan, and then it doesn't show the raised bed garden. We do consider those things structures, so those things should have gotten permits from the Conservation Commission for those items. Luckily, neither of them are within the 50-foot no disturb zone, so that's a good thing. So that's something potentially with some mitigation the commission can consider allowing. Typically, we require at least 2-to-1 mitigation for additional structure that includes patios, fences, retaining walls, kind of like a raised bed garden, things like that, for structures within that 50 to 100 foot buffer. And again, we're just trying to stay consistent with what we've required other people to do. So, oh, and I think it was noticed today by members of the commission, the generator pad and the propane tanks also being within jurisdiction. Which is, again, not that we wouldn't have allowed it, but those things should have gotten permission. Anything within 100 feet of a wetland. So, again, not saying we wouldn't have approved it, should have seen it. That's all, that's what I have.
And your recommendation to use the word legitimatize these structures that are within the 50 to 100 would be a formal filing then?
Well, it's potentially we can wrap it into this. I mean, I like to keep things nice and tidy too. I don't want to hold up the dock project by any means. But if it's something that I could speak with them about over the next week or so about options for that, I'm more than happy to do it. I would suggest putting, that generator pad is, right, it's a concrete pad in back of the house, John. You can
Yep.
locate that.
I'll have to add the raised bed as well.
Yeah, the raised bed, and I think the tanks are stored kind of where the shed is on the east side of the house, but towards the water. So, again, just, what I'm suggesting we do is create a plan of record for this property that shows what's here now, so we can legitimize it.
Yeah.
And once you find out what those square footages are, you can find proper mitigation amounts. And mitigation meaning usually revegetation of a disturbed area with natives to kind of offset, you know, you get your patio, for instance, but you're giving back, putting another area back more natural as a swap.
We've talked about this.
Okay, I wasn't sure, I just wanna.
Do you want to comment on this, on the?
Yes. With regards to the topping of the trees in front of the house, I talked to Michelle and Gary, and, you know, I hope you believe us when we say that, you know, they did not feel they were doing anything damaging to the trees. In fact, because of the wind out of the north, they were trying to keep these trees very dense, and so they don't lose them. What they did is wrong, and whether we flush cut the tree and let it grow back, or allow the tree to stay and either replant it or more shrubbery somewhere else, I think I think that's where we're headed. And what we'll propose, I don't know yet, but the patio and raised bed, I will have to get the areas, and then we can look at mitigation. The trimming of the area to the west, Michelle called me this afternoon after her on-site, and she provided me some photographs. She was very concerned that you folks were, I don't have copies for everyone, so I'll share, I'm sorry. Back when we had the tornado, those photographs are of a very large tree that snapped halfway up and fell right into the area, I think, that looks like it was trimmed. And, you know, that area was just damaged as part of the tree coming down. So we wanted to get that in front of you to make, you know, Michelle just did not remember this morning or today when she was talking with somebody or several members here tonight. So, in fact, I think that area to the west of the shed is probably a good candidate for some mitigation, whether that be taller shrubs or trees, depending upon, you know, what we come up with and after we talk to the owner. But you know, at this point, we'd like to hear from the commission, and we understand the boat lift, and we would like for the winter to be able to leave it where it is, and if the commission wants it moved when the dock goes, you know, have it all moved at once. That's what we'd like to do. It is a very sparsely vegetated area the dock is on. In fact, we could even roll it onto the sandy beach that's there just to get it out of the way, off the grass for the winter. So with that, I'll answer any other questions or listen to comments.
All right, Alan, do you want to start off with this?
I don't have any comment right now.
Jim?
I don't have any additional comments.
Brad?
Nothing really new. I think everything's been discussed, sounds reasonable. You know, find a way to mitigate for the structures and work with Amy to find a good place to put native plantings. I had one different question on the resource area of the beach. Has there been any beach nourishment on the property in the last, 10-plus years?
What do you mean by nourishment, sir?
Bringing in sand.
Put sand
Oh,
on
we
the
have not, no. What you saw today, if you came, that's how we found the property 32 years ago.
Oh, no kidding?
Yeah.
Good.
It's amazing.
beach. Where their house is, was an original location of a hunting camp. I have the original land court plan that shows a hunting camp, two structures right adjacent to the water. One of them is the shed that's down there. And that was the main place for hunting.
Oh, interesting.
That's When you see that open beach like that, you wonder, and
Yeah.
if you go back on the dated maps, it's there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no-
the
nothing.
The reason I ask is because if you review Google Earth images for about 20 years, you see quite a bit of variation to what's going on there. And it must be just seasonal changes, you know, stormy winters. You see some periods where it's got more vegetation than other periods. But that's my guess, is that there's some variation to what happens to that beach.
Yeah. No, there's been no changes whatsoever. The beach, in fact, we discovered the property in February of '89. It was all iced over, and we bought it, just the land, and went out on the ice and looked at it, and we said, we know that spot, that's, we want. And then, in the spring, we were just blessed with that beach. It was like, wow.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much ice anymore, is there?
No.
Thank you.
Good. Stan?
Yeah, I guess I agree with Brad that they seem to be reasonable resolutions to, so unfortunately they were done to begin with. I think with that kayak rack though, and I don't think I'm gonna propose anything different, but I thought there was like some little vegetation. I don't think, from what I remember, it wasn't complete
I
sand there.
can't remember if it's kind of near a little,
Right, like some
thicket where the
patches of
trees are.
grass
Yeah,
and stuff.
it's a
right.
sparse,
Yeah.
it is, there is some vegetation
Right, but
underneath
it-
it.
so it's not completely sand, but
maybe it could be shifted a little bit, so
but
it's
you'd probably do
more
more damage than
over sand.
moving it. You know,
And
so-
if I can say, the reason we put it there is because with that north wind, I mean, you guys got a little feel of it this morning, that was nothing. But with that north wind and those few trees there,
Protects it.
it protects the kayak rack from potentially getting,
The one thing I'm not sure about is the storage on the beach at all. We had a similar situation with a boat lift, and I can't remember the property on Long Pond not too long
Yeah, it's
ago.
on Sequatum Road.
And if I remember right, didn't
John
we
remembers it.
I thought we're requiring them to keep that out off the beach, and.
We are, I think I don't remember what timeline we gave them to get it off.
Right.
We did require, it cannot be stored on the beach.
Right, and so therefore I would
Yeah.
say the same about this one too.
I mean, we'd have to look at timelines. Personally, if you kept it in the sandy area where it's just sparsely vegetated, I personally don't see an issue keeping it there till spring when the boat goes in, but that's up to the commission to decide. April 15th, May 1st, something like that, but that's up to the commission, how you feel about it. If it was on any native vegetation, I would say I can't recommend that, it has to get out right away, but it's not.
But my concern is on an ongoing basis. I'm saying
Agreed,
it should be stored off
Yeah.
the beach,
right,
Okay, thanks, Stan.
just to be
Correct.
consistent with
Correct.
the others.
John?
Yeah, so in the past, when we have reviewed similar properties, and by similar, I mean properties on the south shore of Long Pond, subject to the brutal north breezes, there's been a lot of talk of the potential for erosion and the importance of establishing and keeping vegetation to hold the bank together to prevent erosion. And I'm a little puzzled by this case, honestly. If there's been sand there for 30 years and no vegetation, I don't quite understand why there hasn't been erosion. And it was, one of the first things I noticed on the beach was, I don't know, 3, 4, 5-inch ridge
Right.
at the edge of the water, where your explanation was that it was a north wind. But if that's happening consistently, it's not a little ridge. So I'm a little confused about this. I don't understand the situation, but I guess where I'm going with it is we should do everything we can do to ensure that all the existing vegetation there is promoted. And the cutting that I saw and noted on the bank and pointed out when we were there is like right at the corner of what's drawn here, I think, where what Amy identified as beach plum, which were rather large and impressive beach plums, if that's what they were, had
Beach
been
plum or
trimmed
bayberry.
along the beach end, and I think it's important not to allow that, not to be trying to push back vegetation along that beach because of erosion problems. And I don't know whether what's happening here is there's sand getting completely blown
I think it's,
on that shore, but I think we need to
Yeah.
encourage vegetation there rather than be cutting or doing anything to limit it.
and then I'll add to that after. Go ahead.
Can, through the chair, John, can you just point to the plan where you just referenced to so I can see?
That little corner there,
Okay.
there's a big tree which Amy identified as beach plum. I'm sure she was right.
Maybe
which are
not, it's hard
large.
to-
They're large, the beach
It might be
plums are-
bayberry.
Yeah, but I think it's a huge after
think
I
it might
words,
be
I was like, I
bayberry.
think it's a big bayberry, biggest
It's a
bayberry I've
large
seen.
tree, but anyway, it's
Or
been very
shrub.
clearly pruned on the water side. There's a lot of cut ends there. And
Maybe do.
I'm
so you
just
can't
concerned
pass by.
about limiting vegetation growth along there, that's all.
Well, there's an access path.
If I can, so I was looking, because I too was saying, well, this is so different than, say, Sequatum, this area here. So the area where you, Sequatum Road faces almost directly north. This property, and it's a steeper bank closer to the water than this is. So I think you're seeing heightened erosion there because you're getting almost more direct north winds, plus the,
I don't, there's a compass rose, that's north, this is almost directly
Okay.
north basically.
I just think, or northeast
It's a
maybe,
little
they
north.
tend to get beaten a little bit more.
Yeah, well, okay.
But, this also doesn't show here, but there's a little bit, you're starting to get to the far end of the pond, and you're on a little bit of a point, so I think there's a little bit of
I see, there's less water,
There's
there's less
less
fetch there.
energy, yes, exactly, there's
the-
a little bit less than Sequatum area.
The eastern side just continues to climb out into the pond a little bit and then wraps around to where we were with Alan a few,
Over here.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think you're seeing some seasonal erosion, but because you have a flatter, wider beach and before you hit the bank, which is not as steep of or severe as a bank is farther up there, I think it's slightly different, but yeah, I don't think that they've been I don't think you've been adding anything out
No,
there.
Never,
So, yeah,
never.
you're lucky you don't have to think
Yeah.
about that.
Thank you.
Okay. Mark, any comments? Okay, good. Yeah, I think everybody has pretty much covered any comments I would have. I agree with John as far as the vegetation along the beach has just clearly been topped. And actually we saw that first and then looked over and saw the trees and said, whoa, the same thing's going on there too, so.
You weren't there to look at trees, you were there to look at a dock.
I know, it's amazing how our attention just drifts when we go on.
Believe me, we don't want to
No
see these
attention
other
span.
things.
Spend too much time on our phones, you know.
We don't want to
all
see
the
things.
So,
I think we've heard where the board's coming from, and I think we've got an understanding, so with that, I'd just ask for continuance, and we'll work with Amy and hopefully provide a plan that will meet your satisfaction.
and when you come back, we'll have response to the other items as well then,
On, yeah.
trees and,
We'll address the trees, and we'll address the trimming and mitigation, and how we'll really come back with how the waterfront will be managed going
Perfect.
forward. I think that's what ultimately you're looking for,
okay.
just so there's a clear understanding between,
Before we close, are we shortening it up?
not yet. Nope.
Alrighty.
Hopefully we'll have natural heritage by then too.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't chimed in yet, but.
They've been taking 60 days,
Oh,
at least here in Harwich.
You did get the DEP number.
I did get that,
That
yes.
came in the other
You
day.
got that. So we would need stuff a week prior, which is like a week from today.
I got it.
Okay.
So I move we extend the notice of intent, the hearing on 10 Captain Scott Road to December 15th.
15th, yep.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for 0 Pleasant Lake Road, map 101, parcel P1-0 for a proposed seasonal dock.
I've asked to withdraw application,
Withdraw.
yes.
Okay. Do we need to?
Yeah, let's vote on it to let them withdraw.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we accept the withdrawal of the application for a notice of intent on 0 Pleasant Lake Avenue.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Point of discussion,
Just-
without prejudice?
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't ask for that, and we didn't, technically, we don't even need to vote to let them withdraw, but
I think the email did. I thought I saw that.
I didn't see
oh,
the
did it say
email on
withdraw?
that.
Well, we could say without prejudice.
Yep.
Without I'll amend the motion then, so it's without prejudice.
Second.
Night.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for 6 Sacritucket Point, map 8, parcel G1-9 for proposed addition, garage expansion, and a septic upgrade.
Good evening, Lynn Hamlin, can you hear me? Is this on?
Sure. Yeah,
I'll stay
that's
way
fine.
over here. This hopefully won't take as long as your last one. I heard everybody, almost everybody went to the site today. This is,
I have, so, I think you guys, I have the newer plans, you have to share them, okay? To show where the new mitigation is now proposed. Yeah, so this is, I mean, for the actual construction, you can use that one, but this is for the mitigation, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Amy's handing out a revised plan because
Straighten this out, showing mitigation. You guys can have to share, sorry, you guys are gonna have to share over here.
Okay,
You can go that way if you want a little bit.
okay, do want to go over the mic.
I agree. Yeah, I put some comments on this one, so I just wanted to see where it is.
okay?
Yeah,
The pro-
on the front, right?
Everybody good?
Yeah.
The project's pretty simple. When I was out there to review the existing conditions, the driveway was caved in where the septic system had collapsed. So part of this project is the upgrade of the existing septic system. And in addition, there are 2 additions proposed: an expansion of the existing garage, which is to occur virtually over the, entirely over driveway, existing driveway footprint, and another addition, which is to be constructed within the existing brick patio, which has raised walls all around it. So you've been out there, it's very managed site. There's no natural vegetation being removed to do either of these projects or any 3 of these projects. I know that you took or you looked to Barnstable Conservation Commission as a kind of a guideline for establishing your mitigation regulations. In Barnstable, they wouldn't have required any mitigation because they count all hardscape equally. So on the one end, they grab a lot of hardscape. On the other end, they don't get to add additional mitigation when you put an addition on a patio. But you guys do, so I calculated the mitigation formula in compliance with your regulations, which was 3-to-1 for that portion within the 50, and 2-to-1 for that portion within the 50 to 100. I also met out there with Keith Johnson from Billingsgate Land Management, and we pondered perhaps what would be the best mitigation to offer. And Keith wanted to remove the bittersweet hedge that's on the southerly bank, the natural bank, not the bulkhead. I didn't think, in Barnstable again, they count mitigation, replacement of invasive plants with native plants as mitigation. I didn't think you did. So we were adding new mitigation, which was the conversion of lawn to native vegetation. So I thought that the better mitigation was to widen the buffer that was previously approved, that was done in conjunction with the bulkhead. And I submitted that. That's why I'm just explaining why you have a revised plan. Amy disagreed with me. So, And Mr. Carney didn't care, so we proposed the mitigation per Amy's recommendation, which was to increase the buffer to the southerly end. Interestingly, Mr. Carney wants to take out the invasive bittersweet. It's a bittersweet hedge. So in essence, you're getting 4 times, or you're getting double your requirement of your mitigation. So that's about 1,000 square feet. The lawn we're removing and replacing with the native shrub species is another 1,000 square feet. So you're getting 2,000 square feet for construction that's going over existing impervious landscaping. So what we've done is the native shrubs out there are Virginia rose and bayberry already. Amy asked that we include beach plum. That's fine. That will work well there. We put it in the lower side of the property because we'd like to make it that the homeowner doesn't hate it and then cut it down in a few years. And then I use beech heather and bearberry with plugs of little blue stem and seaside goldenrod, which is my personal favorite plant, so I put it on everybody's property. So that way you have a diversity, you have some structure diversity, some species diversity, and it will look nice, and the property owner will leave it alone. So I'm going to stop there and see if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Amy?
I see a lot of great improvements as a result of this project. So where there's currently a brick patio that is cemented and a brick wall around it, they are proposing a addition to the house. It is partially in the 50-foot no disturb, but because it's completely impervious now, except for, I mean, there's like a little planting bed inside, but for all intents and purposes, it's a pretty substantial structure. Will the new addition, do you know if it's gonna have, what it's gonna have for a foundation?
I don't.
Sorry, I just thought of that.
Yeah.
I literally just thought of that.
I'd just be guessing. I would guess a crawl space. I can't imagine you're gonna dig out a full foundation
Okay.
for just a little addition like that.
Okay. Yeah, we could say maybe crawl space or slab.
They, I mean, it doesn't come close to reaching the 50% threshold for construction in the floodplain. It's a small addition.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about that for this project, as I was with the previous project.
I
for-
can, maybe I,
No worries. Then, yes, I did recommend that the mitigation be moved because previously, along the edge of the bulkhead, the commission had required mitigation in the past, which they did, which was basically low ground cover type stuff. Considering I know the commission's gonna put the condition on for no chemicals and fertilizers, I thought it would be better served to reduce the lawn area towards the top of Coastal Bank where there is, vegetation. It's not native always, but increase that buffer zone more because hopefully already gonna not have the fertilization and chemical usage to worry about kind of getting to the bank and into the Sacritucket Harbor Channel anyways. And I do agree that where the groupings Lynn has shown the plants to be, that the taller of the shrubs proposed are gonna be towards the bulkhead area where it's a little bit lower. That'll make it less likely to be needed to be topped. The removal of the bittersweet hedge, which is right at the edge of lawn, is a positive thing, and the replanting of that area with lower but native vegetation that don't require any chemical treatment or whatnot is a positive. And then overall, just, I mean, because you're, I'm sure, gonna condition the no chemicals, then that's a huge improvement on top of the septic upgrade. So while this is a new structure, an addition within the 50-foot buffer, I would recommend granting the variance for it.
Good, thank you. Mark, you have a comment?
No, I just agree with Amy, that's all.
John?
No comments.
Stan?
No comment.
Geez, you guys
answer.
Brad?
Just thanks for your analysis and Amy, your input. I think it was a good adjustment to the project. I would not like to see the bittersweet removal considered as mitigation in this case, so I think it went the right way, and I appreciate the work together you guys did. Thank you.
Jim?
I just have one question. On the addition that's over the stone patio there, how will the runoff from the roof of that addition be handled?
I always expect the condition to be included in the order that it's either to be directed to subsurface dry wells or a stone trench along the drip line.
Okay,
So I don't know architecturally, but I'm always expecting, and I usually include it in my narrative somewhere.
okay, thank you.
This one, I would say, you got plenty of space to groundwater, so I'd say a dry well
Yeah,
probably.
as long as it's handled properly.
Put it in the conditions.
Okay.
Good, Alan?
No comment, looks good.
Lynn, can you just clarify, what is the total mitigation that you're doing?
Square foot?
Yeah.
It's required as 996, I believe it's 102. I mean, 1,002, I'm sorry. Or 1,000. It changed, you lost 2 feet when we moved it. But you're only required 996, and that was breaking it up, so we took the square footage of, not all the addition is in the 50-foot buffer. So Steve Hawes did it by CAD, so it's accurate. So we took the formula for the portion of it within the 50 and the portion of it without the 50 and multiplied by the respective ratios. And we're giving you a little more because you can't,
Okay, because I didn't come up with those numbers.
you didn't.
No. When I look at maybe my math is off. So the garage is 85, so that's 170, right? That might be where 170 for a 2-to-1 on the garage addition, correct?
Okay, I hate thinking on my, I like to do this in,
Oh, right, they're a little garage addition.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do it with you, but I need my calculator.
Okay, and
want
then
me- what do you want me
690
to
for the addition that's within the 50 to
So,
100, the 345 times 2 is 690, correct?
Total, he's got total, so it's 133 within, I think you're looking at, he's got 345 total, so I think you have to subtract 133 off of 345.
Oh, I did. Oh, that's total. I'm sorry.
It says total, right?
Oh, I see where you're, that's where my math is probably off, because I took the 345 as
Yeah.
being within the 50 to 100. Okay.
Okay?
Good, yeah. And then the other question is, what are they doing as far as replacing the septic system? Is it going to be just a plain, standard Title V system, or are they considering, or do you know if the health department is considering putting in an IA in this location? I noticed
I
these,
don't think they're increasing bedrooms or anything, so they can't require them to go to IA.
even though it's within 100 feet from a resource, from the
They're not
actual
increasing
water.
flow. Correct.
Interesting.
It's in, right now, it's a leach pit,
Yeah,
so it's being
better.
much improved by the, I think he's using diffusers. So infiltrated chambers, we call them diffusers. So it's spread, it's shallow, it's much greater surface area. They don't even allow leach pits anymore. Because they want it closer to the surface, they want greater surface area. But yeah, there's no increase in effluent on this site.
Okay.
You know, and he doesn't live here, and the effectiveness of the IA systems used seasonally isn't very good.
Yeah, I know, I understand that. I didn't realize he didn't live there permanently.
No, he's got a few houses.
Okay, all right. I think that was the only comment I had.
I got a quick follow-up.
Sure.
Just a question, have you bounced the concept with your client on the no chemical applications from the 0 to 100?
We mentioned it today to him on site.
He was okay with that?
Sure.
Yeah,
If he said no, would you leave it off?
It's a famous property because it's so brightly green right there at the waterway, so everyone sees it.
It's all the geese. He'll
Yeah.
tell you it's the geese.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, that could be more attractive if it had a Cape Cod lawn around it, I think, but that's just my
He wanted
bias.
AstroTurf. I'm sure you had that conversation.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, heard about Del Coronado and everything else too, so.
He's a little upset with me. I wouldn't even propose it, but.
We We can,
Excuse me, what did you say?
He said he's a little upset with me that I wouldn't even take it as a legitimate, it's a constant joke with us. Well, it started out as a real offer. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
Okay. So, any other comments from the commissioners? Nope. I think we've addressed all the issues that we had. Can we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the notice of intent for 6 Sacritucket Point. And according to the revised plan that was distributed to you.
I'll second that.
With the fertilizer restriction.
With the no fertilizer, no chemical application restriction, that is
And-
normally in the order of condition, if you're reminding me of
And the
something.
dry wells are,
Amy will
runoff.
also include runoff into dry wells.
yep, and I'll give them some examples of other products, you know, seed products or mixes that could be used for reseeding of the lawn and whatnot.
Okay. All right, we have a second, please.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, then?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda, order of conditions. The first one is for 4 Shady Drive.
I don't know if you have any changes from my draft.
I have none.
Pretty clean to me.
Yeah, I didn't have any.
Okay. May we have a motion on this, please?
Okay. I'll move that we approve the order of conditions for 4 Shady Drive, map 73, parcel X180.
And a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Order passes. Next item is order of condition for 0 Clearwater Drive for a new dwelling in appurtenance, map 73, parcel N94 and 95. Comments?
No comments.
This looked pretty clean. I saw you got the fence coming down around the property and,
Yeah, I got them right.
yeah.
No edits.
Yeah, looked good.
Yeah, can't even find a typo these days.
Yeah. I know, we need Carolyn here
I
again.
know. She might not find something yet. You have no comments?
Everybody all set? Can we get a motion on this, please?
I'll move to approve the order of conditions for Wesley Price, 0 Clearwater Drive, map 73, parcels P94 and P95.
In a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is a request to extend an order of conditions for 177 Forest Street, map 31, parcel C2. This has been an ongoing project that we hope is getting close to completion. So, Amy, you have comments on this?
I know that, I think somebody's on the computer, but I don't think it's this person. If there's anybody electronically present for 177 Forest Street, please speak up. He was made aware of this meeting. I've had on-site meetings with him. I guess in absence of him, I would put it on to the next meeting. And just to let you know, I mean, I will say that this has been a long haul, and some real progress was made out there. So I think in light of that, I think we should continue to encourage that. And just because, I mean, I keep saying it, we're almost done. It's like, we're really almost done. Dry wells are in, 75% of the debris has been moved outside the 100. But you don't need to vote for this, because I could just put it on the agenda for next time. I wouldn't want to speak to it without the owner present.
Okay. All right. So should we have a motion to,
You don't need to continue.
Okay,
that, I'll just put it on the 15th.
all right
So,
then.
I just have a question about this. I'm just looking at the documents that he provided apparently, and has he been sending an email each time he completes a task?
No, he kind of sent a group of them.
Okay.
It's really supposed to be doing monthly, but at least we got something though.
Okay.
So that's a big thing.
Very sparse communication.
Yes, I went out there when he told me a lot of it had been done, and I was like, okay, I want to see this. And I was pleasantly surprised.
Good. Wonderful. Any questions on that? All right, then we have a request for certificate of compliance for 73 Gilbert Lane, map 30, parcel D2-6, and SE 32-953 for a septic replacement and addition.
We recommend that there is that you issue a certificate of compliance for this project. The dwelling's in substantial compliance. We would include a letter reminding the owners that the dumping of yard waste in the buffer is not permitted, and any change within the buffer needs our approval. There was a shed in the 50-foot buffer on a 1993 plan. That was removed, but that's a good thing. But there was a huge oak tree too, and we don't know, and that was not recent, but we just noticed it, and, because it was on a plan, but it's not physically there now. It could have been a weather event for all we know, but just a reminder to them, but
Okay.
recommend a cert.
Any comments, questions on that, Ramey? May we have a motion on that?
I'll move to approve the request for a certificate of compliance, 73 Gilbert Lane, map 30, partial D2-6.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the minutes. I only saw October 20th on Dropbox.
It's
Amy.
not, we only have one set.
Okay.
Again, more hopeful.
Well, you're getting them done, so.
Well, we also just, the town hired an outside person who's done minutes for other things to catch up the various boards, and we are first. So she's already
Wonderful.
done a new set of minutes for us. I have to review them tomorrow and see what we like, if we like how it's done.
Good.
But we should be catching up quickly.
Yeah, I had no comments on the 20th, and it's the only one that we're concerned with tonight.
Anybody else?
No comments.
Nope.
Tell Melissa she's doing a great job.
I do, but I
Good.
will.
Can we have a motion, assuming there are no more other comments, a motion to approve the minutes for October 20th?
I'll move to approve the minutes for October 20th.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 7-0 again.
I unfortunately don't have new language for you for the bylaw. I really need to have that done, so you can have a meeting with the Board of Selectmen.
All right.
We have the language, it's what we proposed, Lynn. I'm assuming that's why you stayed. I just haven't cleaned it up yet, so I'll send it to you, though. Sorry, folks.
Not like you're not doing anything else, I'm sure.
I know, but this has to, well, I have to make this a real priority because we have to finish it and then get it back to the Board of Selectmen.
Yep,
So we'll put that for the next meeting.
all right. And then an update on violations is the final item we have on the agenda.
Yep. Can't go too much into 47 and 52 North Road because that is a enforcement matter that's legal, undergoing the legal process. But you saw, those of you who have been doing the checks, I've said you do not, I don't want to, been getting conflicting information about how valuable daily photos necessarily are, and I don't want to waste your time. So, we're still keeping track of every single day, but I do have a conversation with DEP, finally able to get a hold of somebody from DEP who wants to take this on, which is great. And have a conference call with the person we sent the violation to, as well as their attorneys, to hopefully try to get going on fixing these issues. So that's my update there.
Okay.
And again, can't speak too much about it because we're not in executive session. 7 Prince Charles, this is on the north side of Long Pond. This was the deck. The deck's still there. It's supposed to be gone by November 1st.
Where's the shed been moved?
Shed has been moved.
Okay.
I recommend, we can't I don't want to backdate it, it's too much right now, but if, fines, start them now.
What do you propose? Do we send him a letter telling him fines will begin on X date?
Well, we could do maybe we do this. Maybe we send him a letter with initial fine for the 300, because he's already been fined, but a fine for 300, giving him, it's winter, so it's not like anything's growing, a month to remove it, and if he doesn't, then he'll get daily fines,
So it'd be starting, say, January 1st?
January 1st.
That sounds reasonable to me.
An initial 300, and then,
Right.
okay. And January 1st, the holiday, so starting January 2nd.
Okay.
I would like a motion to that effect, if you can.
I move with respect to the violation at 7 Prince Charles, the deck was to be removed by November 1st. We impose an initial fine of $300 and a letter instructing the property owner that the fines will be commencing on a daily basis if the deck is still in place as of January 6th.
Second.
January 2nd. Is
Yeah,
that a second
I'll
to the
second
motion?
that.
or-
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Little discussion,
Yeah.
if you don't mind. So I think that's all fine. I fully support that. They have the ability to appeal that if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if they couldn't get their contractor out there to remove the deck, then I would say there's nothing wrong with them appealing to not have daily fines. So I just wanted to put that out there.
He obviously got someone out there to move a shed.
Yeah,
Yep.
and maybe he did it himself, I don't know.
No.
But I'm not,
I know the contractor.
I'm not advocating to change the motion. I'm just saying that, he has the right to appeal it because it could become excessive if he can't get a contractor out there before Christmas holidays and all.
But he's had 4 to 5 months to remove it already.
Yeah.
So, question though, have you had any communication with them since November 1?
With his contractor, yes, about the removal of the shed, and that was it.
Did you ask the contractor whether he had it?
He said he needed to get permission from the owner.
For the deck?
Yeah, well,
Well, the letter will get their attention.
yeah.
They can choose to make an argument if they want to.
Any other comments? We have a motion on the table then, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Similar recommendation for 11 Riverbend. This came in front of you for sort of compliance a couple months ago. We noticed there was remnants of an unpermitted walkway and float and we gave them a date of removal by November 20th. We have not heard from them and it has not been removed. So similarly, I would recommend an initial fine, and then give them a month. If it's not gone, then we go to dailies. Again, they've had a couple months to do this.
Were the walkway and float in good condition, or were they derelict?
The float wasn't in bad condition, the walkway was derelict.
Do we know if it predated our regulations?
I'm trying to think.
It didn't.
I don't know.
I mean, because if it did, then it's,
Here,
you're,
They've been stockpiling, it's stockpiled, it's not just there, it's like they piled it there.
the river teeny.
I don't understand that.
Oh, meaning it's not just, the walkway is not just laying there, like it's been forgotten about? Like somebody took apart the pieces and stacked them together.
Oh,
So, I mean, it's not like they're just kind of rotting in place, I don't know.
and they're in the resource area.
They're in a resource, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you made a comment that it's unpermitted, but we don't know if it was perhaps grandfathered, though.
I mean, I can look into that a little bit more, but I don't, they had, so they have, I have to remember the original project, hold on. Oh, I don't have it here. It was to close out a permit on their, I can't remember if it was a dock or a bulkhead that had, because that's in the Riverbend area, is by the fish house, just north of the fish house on the river. I think it's the property north of the property that has this really extensive bulkhead almost all the way around it. It's laying, it actually is that property. I'm trying to remember. So attached to that, a permitted bulkhead, we allowed 1 or 2 floats. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2. There was one of those, an additional one, was resting on the marsh, and that shouldn't have been there. So the permit, that was permitted, was for them to have either 1 or 2, and I can't remember what, but, so they had that, and they had an extra one, and that was the one sitting on the marsh. The walkway was an old walkway that probably hadn't been used in a long time, but had just been stockpiled.
On the marsh again.
Yeah, I don't know if that walkway had been permitted or
Regardless, if
predated.
it's, yeah, if
but-
it was derelict and if it's impacting the marsh, then,
Yeah, it's preventing
Concern.
any growth
Yeah.
from there.
okay, all right.
So I'd recommend the same. You could do, I mean, you could do separate fines, because they are separate things. One's the float, one's the walkway, or you could do one $300 fine. Whatever you feel.
Comments on that?
I didn't get down there. Is there specific impacts from both structures that we should consider?
And the same, I mean, they're both impacting salt marsh.
Yeah.
In pretty much same location.
Yeah.
I'd be comfortable with combining them, I guess, one fine. That way he's gotta
I
get them
think what
both
happened,
removed.
I think the property transferred and that got left by the wayside.
Yeah,
So the new owner needs to be aware.
You mean recently, within?
I think so. That's why there was a certificate of compliance, because they were transferring the property.
Okay.
so we have not fined them as yet.
No, we
So-
gave them time.
Your recommendation would be to impose a one-time fine now and give them the date of January 2nd again to remove the 2 of them, or daily fines would commence on that date.
They can appeal it. If for some reason they're the new owners now and the old owners didn't give them the letter with the certificate of compliance saying they had to do that, you could waive the fine.
Yep.
But I'd say let's get it on the books.
All right, so I'd make a motion, then we send a letter to the owners, current owners of 11 River Bend, advising them to remove the walkway and float, along with a one-time fine of $300, and the removals take place by January 2nd, 2022, and if it is not removed by that date, daily fines of $300 per day are to commence.
Second.
Comments? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Got a couple work days scheduled, if anybody's interested in helping out.
Can I circle back to another violation?
Oh, yeah, sure, sorry.
So, Snow Inn Road, there's a float sitting on salt marsh, direct obvious impacts. Were you able to get information on that one?
Yes, we have the owner, I have to see, I haven't sent the letter out yet, but, or the fine, because it'll be, if you meant to say it's a fine at this point. We've already sent letters to people.
Yeah. Can we make a motion for the fine and have a similar structure as these previous two, where
Sure.
there's a date, January 2nd, daily fines?
Have you talked to the owner?
I have not talked to
No.
the owner yet,
Okay,
so
all right.
It's, we talk about, Prince Charles Drive and that
Yep.
deck. That has some impact, but it's more of a procedural issue. This is a direct physical impact of salt marsh.
Yeah.
It's killing salt
We
marsh.
did go out and look at it.
We've been around this, issue for a long, long time, so I would move that we fine them $300 for the event, and ask Amy to send a letter out communicating that with, also the same situation where January 2nd, if it's not removed, daily fines will be imposed.
I'll
Second.
second that.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Brad.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. On the 14th and the 17th, we're gonna be doing some pile burning over at Thompson's Field. If anybody wants to come play outside. It's always a good time.
Do you want to send around a,
I will send an email, yeah. The first day is just gonna be one pile with, myself, Melissa, and our AmeriCorps member Jody. That Friday, the 17th, I've got 12 AmeriCorps members also coming, so we're gonna have more going on. But if you're welcome to, if you wanna come out, and you don't have to, but specifically on the 14th, we could use a hand.
have they been doing a lot of trimming out there that's?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So this is dragging brush to the fire, or is there cutting happening?
No, any cutting they'll be doing, especially on the 17th. We've already cut it. This is all the sapling regrowth of the pitch pines and the oaks, and there's some new, bigger stuff that we've cut already, but it's all cut and piled. We have a center pile that the feeder piles are already there, so it's just,
Feeding the fire, huh? Okay.
yep, so.
Okay.
All part of our land management plan for the area. It's been, our AmeriCorps member's phenomenal. Jody, this is like her pet project. She's out there every chance she gets, doing a little bit here and there. And Melissa and I are getting out of the office more too, to assist on those things, so. Also putting in a request to remove more of the olive at the Bell's Neck bogs. And we'll be talking about the Bell's Neck bogs at the next meeting as well. More to come on that. Won't get into it tonight. Trying to think if there's anything else going on. I know there's a lot going on.
Did any invasive frag control occur at Bell's Neck?
No, the price quote came back higher than 10 grand, so I have to go through more of an official process.
Missed the window anyways.
Yeah, well, they could do the removal now.
Yeah.
So the plan is to put it out for official bids, and then for prices for project, and then do permitting, obviously. And then hopefully tee it up to do some work this summer.
Amy, were you able to get together with John Rendon and do a tour of the rivers and look for floats like we had?
No.
talked about?
I talked to him about it, we both said, yes, we need to do this, and then both got crazy, but, yeah, the weather's turning for the worse lately too, so. But if we can get a nice day out on the river, we should go. So, I would love to, but, try to address that, we did not go,
Because we had talked about it,
Yeah.
but then,
yeah.
And just as an informational item, we gave our presentation to the Board of Selectmen on Monday night. And they were very complimentary of what we've done. The work that we've done, we talked about the fines that we've issued on the North Street property and all, and the amount of them and everything, and they had no issues with that. They were very complimentary of Amy and gave her a lot of attaboys as well for the work that she has done with us. But overall, I think it went well.
It did, yes.
John was with me at that.
Thank you for doing that, sorry I couldn't be there. sounds like you didn't need me anyway, so.
It's always nice to have you in the background, believe me. All right, anything else, Mark?
Any further communication about the Main Street bog and the tech school?
Not
was all
since I
supposed to-
spoke with the superintendent, and then I did have a meeting with administration about it. Everyone's in favor of going the next step and putting together a proposal for the commission so the commission can vote on what to do with the property. I spoke with Superintendent Sanborn and was gonna be working, I think Leo was pretty involved with coming up with something to put in front of you, but I haven't heard from them yet, so they're on my list of people to get a hold of, because like to make a decision, so, because the lease is up in fall, and I know the tech has, plans, and, anyway, sorry, I'm getting tired and off topic. I'm not finding my words, put it that way. There has been conversations, I need to have follow-up conversations, so we can continue to keep this moving, because there was good momentum about a month ago, and it's since seemed to have waned.
So doesn't this involve at least one item that would have to be on the warrant for town meeting, and thus has to be resolved by early February?
Yep.
Which is not a lot of time.
Make myself a note. Catch with them tomorrow. Tech school.
It'll have to be on the warrant, John, for the whatever it is, the
Municipal
agreement.
If the
Yeah.
commission
That's-
decides that is the route that they want to go for the property, is to do that. I mean, you still have the other options, as always, the unpopular do-nothing option, to release it or to enter it into an IMA. So,
Well, if we were to
'cause
release,
that's not a done deal, it has to go through the due process, so.
yeah, if we were to release it, Leo would be the lessee again. He's already indicated that he would do that.
That would be up to you to determine to do
If,
that.
yeah, he would apply to release it then.
He has to apply,
Yeah.
yes.
And then he could terminate that at any time in favor of the intermunicipal agreement, I suspect. No,
There could be there could be other people interested in leasing it too,
that's
Right.
true.
not just him.
That's
We-
true.
We would want to review the terms.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity
Yeah.
not to be wasted to review the terms.
Yeah, all right. So preferably, we'll get it resolved as far as the tech's concerned. Okay. So, sounds like there's some work that needs to be done in a short period of time.
I'll-
Yeah,
A lot of details not known.
yeah,
Well, in the school committee, it's not just the superintendent who says okay to this, it's the school committee.
yeah.
They have applied to become, I don't know, with the Department of Education, I guess, to become an agricultural school. That did get submitted. With this property, as they've made known they do not own it, but that is one of the properties they intend to use.
Okay. All right.
But I wasn't part of that process.
Okay. Good. Any other issues, comments? Sounds like we've cleared everything up for tonight then. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Got a few things for you folks to sign. Maybe